John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln. This story revolves around an unusual number of coincidences that occurred between Presidents Kennedy and Lincoln in regards to their assassination. For example, both men were elected 100 years apart, Lincoln in 1860 and Kennedy in 1960. They were both succeeded by Southerners named Johnson, and the two Johnsons were born 100 years apart, Andrew in 1808 and Lyndon in 1908. Both assassins were born 100 years apart, Booth in 1839 and Oswald in 1939, and both died before they could be brought to trial. Lincoln was shot in a theater and his assassin was cornered in a warehouse, while Kennedy was shot from a warehouse and his assassin was captured in a theater. Finally, Lincoln was shot in Ford's theater, while Kennedy was shot while riding in a Ford Lincoln. And to top it all off, Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln, Evelyn Lincoln, while Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It's unlikely the 20-year-old Bosnian peasant realized that his actions would set the course for the rest of the 20th century. But that's exactly what it did when the man took out his pistol and shot twice at the motorcade carrying Austro-Hungarian leader Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, one beautiful June day in 1914. Killing both of them, their deaths set off a chain of events that would plunge the world into one of the bloodiest wars in history and sow the seeds for the advent of communism and Nazism over the next few decades. And the sad thing is, it need never had happened except for a single remarkable coincidence. Princip, it turns out, was part of a band of conspirators intent on killing the Archduke that day, but he had largely given up once the day's earlier attempt to kill the man with a bomb failed. Ducking into a cafe for a quick bite to assuage his disappointment, he had just stepped outside when he spotted the Archduke's car stopped before his very eyes, not 20 feet away. The driver had apparently taken a wrong turn and in the process of backing up had killed the engine, leaving the Archduke and his wife sitting ducks. Thinking quickly, Princip took out his pistol and shot both the Archduke and his wife, Barbara Forrest and Mary Ashford. In a somewhat grisly coincidence, it seems that two ladies, Barbara Forrest and Mary Ashford, were both victims of a similar crime committed in a tiny village of Erdington, some 5 miles outside of Birmingham in England. Both 20 years old, who happened to share the same birthday, had been raped and strangled. Their bodies were found 300 yards apart, and both had been found on the same day, May 27th, 157 years apart, 1817 and 1974. Even more remarkable, both had just visited a friend that evening, both had changed into a new dress that night, and both had gone to a dance where they presumably met their killer. And to top it all off, the men accused in both their crimes were named Thornton, and both Thorntons were eventually acquitted for the crime. D-Day invasion. In what has to be one of the biggest long shots in history, in May of 1944, retired schoolteacher Leonard Dawes, who had been compiling the daily crossword puzzle for London's Daily Telegraph newspaper for over 20 years, put together a series of puzzles that somehow managed to include the names of two of the landing beaches, Utah and Omaha, along with several other super secret code words like Overlord, Mulberry, and Juno. Nobody outside of General Eisenhower's staff was supposed to know. Assuming Dawes was a German agent, they instantly interrogated the man, only to release him a short time later, once they became convinced the words were entirely randomly chosen. While the chances of inadvertently using one of the code words is not remarkable, Dawes' puzzles contain no fewer than 5 code words, all over the course of 2 weeks. So that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Until the next video, goodbye.